which took place at Killarney just outside Cape Town. The Drivers' Parade is a popular part of the series as it gives fans a chance to see their heroes in the flesh rather than cocooned and helmeted in a car. Going into the meeting, local BP Nissan driver Janil de Villiers needed just 3 points to secure his second successive backfin championship. Sassel BMW driver Sean van der Linde enjoyed a 20-point advantage over Duncan Voss in the other Nissan, while Terry Moss wasn't far behind in the Audi. An interesting newcomer to the series was Zimbabwean champion James Browell, who was in the Castrol Toyota normally pedalled by Tony Martin. Touring car stalwart George Besaidnout was to line up as the third fastest privateer with his Nissan Sentra behind this man, Englishman Mark Peters, who flies to South Africa for each race. But the privateer to beat was the hard-charging Marco dos Santos in the Midas Nissan Sentra. Mike Briggs was one of the first factory drivers to go out and, despite the ambient temperature in the mid-30s, set a time good enough for third place on the grid. Teammate Sean van der Linde was a tenth or so slower and would start from fourth place. Dos Santos was in the pits as Janil de Villiers came in after posting a time that gave him an important front row starting berth. But it was teammate Voss who set the pace and claimed points for pole position. The Audis of Chris Aberdeen, Terry Moss and Anthony Taylor were 5th, 6th and 7th ahead of the privateer battle, and some battle it would be. However, poleman Duncan Voss knew that he would have his work neatly cut out for him to recapture second position in the championship fight.
Yeah, there are 4 events left, 4 races left, and my aim is to put it on pole possible 4 times, and the only way I'm going to come second in the championship is if I win races. So I've got to start from the front and go as hard as I can and hopefully try and win 1 or 2 races.
Backfin, the right deal for you.
The field comes under starting orders for the rolling start of round 17. There's 15 laps of hard racing ahead, and poleman Voss is already under pressure from Briggs as they head into Continental Corner for the first time. Moss is also right up there and looking for a way around the outside, and this is close combat racing at its absolute best. Watch those wing mirrors. Into the engine oval for the first time, and Briggs is still determined to get ahead of Voss as de Villiers has the luxury of being ahead, while Moss has a grandstand view of Briggs and Voss exchanging paint, and already Briggs's mirror is history. Briggs has the line as they power through the dip and towards the far shell corner with Moss catching fast. Moss has hit the back of Briggs and taken Voss off as well. That was big impact for Voss and for Moss, and there's no protection against the wall at that point of the circuit, but the ever-efficient marshals are on the scene very quickly to stop any fires, if that should be the case. That little contretemps has given de Villiers a comfortable lead over van der Linde as they sweep down to Vodacom Corner, but van der Linde has Aberdeen right behind him as they complete a dramatic opening lap. Normally, they're always dramatic at Killarney. So Janil de Villiers leads the pack, no red flags waving, so the race is still on as dos Santos leads the privateer challenge from Peters. That's the 3-car pile-up men trotting back to the pits to explain what happened to their respective team managers. And here's a replay from Moss's Audi. Just strap in, this is quite hairy. It sounded almost as if Moss's throttle was stuck wide open. Let's have another look at that one. And there was no sign of Moss locking wheels there at all, right up the back of the BM and into the Nissan sideways. So the impact of that lot at the end meant that a few mechanics would have to sort out 1 or 2 remodeled cars. Lap 3, and it's still de Villiers out in front. Then van der Linde, still with Aberdeen's Audi glued right to his bumper and a few car lengths behind Taylor, with dos Santos swarming all over the back of him. On board now with Aberdeen, who is noted as a Killarney specialist of sorts, and he's going through, but has he passed under a yellow flag? There are flags out on that part of the track due to the earlier accident, and van der Linde didn't seem to fight back. Just look at how hard Aberdeen is driving. The Audi's rear is sliding around a lot over the dreaded Killarney bumps. Back onto the long back straight, and you can see how big a lead de Villiers has got already just a bit further up. Mr. De Villiers looks like he's in total control and not extending himself at all in that car up front, but Taylor seems to have shaken off us for the time being a bit further back. Coming into this race with a 61-point advantage, the defending champion was very happy, and the Nissan team was already congratulating their man. The title will be his if he finishes the race in the points, and the points are awarded right down to 12th place. All he needs to do is finish 9th, and that seems rather unlikely from this position. Car just coming into screen is Gothwa Bashki's privateer Toyota Camry. He missed qualifying after blowing a motor and has come from the very back of the grid to 3rd in the privateer challenge, having already passed George Besaidnout, Brian Martin and Nico van Rensburg. An impressive drive. At this early stage, the drivers were going about it rather gingerly, as Killarney is known to produce some shenanigans in virtually every race meeting. Besaidnout in the pits, obviously he's got problems, which is unusual as he's a very consistent finisher. But there's nothing wrong with this Nissan Primera, which is reeling off the remaining laps without any drama. Van der Linde is now starting to put the pressure on Aberdeen, and all eyes are on this battle, which has raged virtually from the word go. Taylor is still a very comfortable 4th in the next Audi, but Dos Santos is close enough to capitalize should the Krugersdorp lad make a mistake. But motor racing is motor racing for a reason. Let's take a ride with Dos Santos, a driver who may think he's worthy of a factory drive. Many others do. And then all of a sudden he proves all of them wrong. Loses it in a very big way and straight into the abandoned cars of Briggs, Foss and Moss. Ironically, there seemed to be very little damage on Briggs's BMW after the first lap accident, but that has obviously changed. Oblivious to Dos Santos' problems, De Villiers is still out in front, while the battle behind him hasn't let up in the slightest. Sassel BM driver Sean van der Linde was all over the back end, but would not try to take any chances, knowing full well that Foss and Moss were out of the race, and all he had to do was consolidate his 2nd spot on the championship log. With Dos Santos out of the running, the likeable Brit Mark Peters leads the privateer challenge by a country mile. He's one of those rare drivers that always seems to finish a race with hardly a scratch on the car, even in this very competitive formula. Gothwa Bashki in the DAW Toyota is now 2nd, and that's a real morale boost for the Kempton Park-based team led by Brian Creer and Greg Canny, who changed no less than 2 motors during qualifying the day before the race. Lap 12, and Van der Linde in the Sassel BMW is still looking for a way past the silver Audi. With Foss not scoring any points, Van der Linde has secured 2nd place in the championship. Aberdeen is obviously trying very hard and is looking very skittish as his tyres wear past their sell-by date on that A4 Audi. Neil De Villiers in the BP Nissan passes privateer Paul Beachy-Head, who will soon be caught by the battle for 2nd place as well. Aberdeen just locked up his brakes there, and Van der Linde closes right up, but can't quite get alongside the Audi. With Dos Santos making that a 4-car pile-up in a very dangerous position at Shoal Corner, the clerk of the course hangs out the red linen and stops the race. Looks a bit like a scrapyard doing boom business out there, doesn't it? The win gives De Villiers the 1998 Bankman Touring Car Championship, and Aberdeen was indeed penalised for passing under the yellow flag, which gives Van der Linde 2nd place. Peters took the privateer class from Obashki and former rally driver Brian Martin. So what if Aberdeen didn't win on the track? He was the first to get his champagne bottle open.
I must give all credit to the guys in the team, every single one of them, all 15 or 17 of them. They did a great job. They worked hard right throughout the year. Built the cars. I had such a good car for these 2 years, and that for me made it easy to as a driver to win the championship, and all credit to them for sure. But I must say it's absolutely great to win back-to-back titles.
Peters, Wabashki and Martin enjoyed their champagne in a much more dignified manner. Of the Bankman Touring Car Series at the Nissan Dealers Race Day, with lots of rather ominous rain clouds around, but luckily no serious rain ever interrupted proceedings. This exciting racing action from the Bankman Touring Car Series is proudly brought to you by Bankman, the right deal for you. After the carnage of round 17, there was a heck of a lot of work to be done before round 18, which was delayed to give teams much needed extra time. to sort out one or two bits of bodywork. Dos Santos' Centra looked quite a mess, but Nick Jooste worked miracles to get the car ready. Of all four of the teams involved in that four-man pile-up, BMW's men had the least work to do. But then it didn't look like it. And then the Sasol Beamer team found a very novel way to panel beat the door of Briggs's car. There you go, think I got it that time. Friday's qualifying had been tame by comparison, but it wasn't plain sailing for some. Vashke would start from the back after blowing another motor, while Dos Santos' effort was thwarted by a broken power steering belt. Brian Martin was third fastest of the privateers and showed Browell the way around the track. Second fastest was Besaidnout in the Nissan Engine Exchange Centra. And the fastest privateer was Peters, this despite a gearbox failure late in the session. Van der Linde lined up at the head of the second row after setting the third fastest time behind this man, Chris Aberdeen, who is something of a Killarney specialist, and the crowds love him for it.
Yeah, we've been working hard on the car, found a bit more power, had a very good lap. We were expecting, I think, for the first qualifying to be a lot close to the front, but didn't pull it off. But the second qualifying, a little bit lucky at the end with the oil on the track, so a lot of guys didn't put up their best time. But I'm very happy. We're on the front row and the car's very good over race distance. So I think tomorrow we're in with a good shot.
Pole position went to champion-elect Janelle de Villiers in the BP Nissan Primera.
The pole position definitely does help on this track, especially because it's quite difficult to pass. And it's a great bonus to be on pole, but I think it's still going to be a very hard race. The other guys are close, very close up there. I think we've got to plan our strategy very carefully and see how we can go in the race. But we're looking good. If you're on pole, you always got an advantage. So hopefully we can dictate things from there if we can.
Racing doesn't come much closer than the Bankman Touring Car Series. Behind de Villiers, no less than 6 cars were covered by less than a second, which is close by anyone's standards.
Bankman, the right deal for you.
Conditions were much cooler when the fuel came under starters' orders for round 18. Aberdeen judges the start perfectly and moves up alongside de Villiers as they head down the 180-degree continental corner, and Briggs goes for the outside option. It's a tight fit, and Van der Linde is following de Villiers through on the inside line, which is probably the better option. Briggs gets onto the curb, but he's still well placed for the following right-hander. Into Engine Oval, and the two BMWs are still disputing third place. It's moments like this that gives team managers more grey hairs than what they've already got. Moss and Taylor are right behind the BMs, and there's nothing between this quartet. On board with Moss as he hounds Briggs on the run to Shull. This is where they collided in the previous race. Now Van der Linde is ahead of the Audi as Taylor sweeps around the outside. There's a bit of touch there, but they keep control, and it's hard work in a Bankman Touring Car race, and certainly not for the faint-hearted. This series of sweeps at Killarney is what really sorts out the men from the boys. Looking back from the de Villiers car as they round the double apex Sabat sweep, probably the most important corner at Killarney. Get it right and your speed down the long but slightly kinked straight is good, but get it wrong and you've lost a couple of positions in the blink of an eye. Next up is Vodacom Hep, and depending on the gearing, it's hard on the brakes and down to either first or second. A feature of this corner is that it's banked. Consequently, it's much faster than what it looks. A flat-out left-hand sweep before the pits is a lot more difficult than it looks, and that is where Ian Schechter and Hannes Kobler had their horrendous accident almost 10 years ago. One lap down, and already de Villiers has broken away from his pursuers, led by Aberdeen, then Briggs, Van der Linde. And that's Duncan Foss tossing his Nissan at the scenery. He qualified a lowly 6th after a misfire hampered his progress, and he's obviously trying a tad too hard to make up some ground. Fortunately, he didn't bury that in the gravel trap and didn't stall, so he's able to rejoin, but a long way back. As the pack heads around the back end of the track, the two Sasol Beamers seem to have shaken off their engine Audis and have got their heads down to chase second-placed Aberdeen. We're riding with Mr. Van der Linde. Now that his second place in the championship is secure, will he ride shotgun for Briggs? Everyone was asking. Briggs hasn't had a great season by his own great standards. The hairpin again, and Briggs has a quick look at the inside line, but decides that discretion is the better part of valor. Aberdeen is under pressure though, and he locked up his brakes quite a lot, which won't do his tyres any good. Back up now through the gearbox, and another lap is almost over. The order then, after just a handful of laps: De Villiers, Aberdeen, Briggs and Van der Linde. Then it's Taylor and Moss fighting it out for fifth. Marco de Santos leads the privateer battle from Brian Martin, Besaidnow, Peters and Wambashki. We're with Mark Peters and the Dugsby Modems BMW as he chases Besaidnow, who locks up a bit, while Garth Wambashki also gets his Toyota a little out of shape. After 4 laps, it's very much as it was earlier. De Villiers looks to be in complete control, but Aberdeen is under enormous pressure from the BMWs, and he's certainly starting to look a little ragged. Those tyres have paid the price. Through the left-hander now and past the pits, and Briggs eases the Sassel BMW out of the slipstream to move alongside the Audi to set himself up to take the outside line around Continental. If he manages to stay there, the Audi will be in a good position at the next corner. And a little bit of contact there, but Briggs does very well to keep that on the black stuff. Aberdeen